Breaking news! There's tension in the locker room, confusion on the sidelines, and growing frustration in the stands. A team that was once a playoff favorite is now hanging by a thread, and the silence from the leadership? This only makes matters worse. Are we just going through a rough patch or witnessing the early stages of a total collapse? But before we dive into all of this, be sure to like this if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages cheering for this team. And if you'd like, comment "Go Ravens" below to show you're following the group, no matter what. Now let's talk about what just happened in Baltimore. The Ravens have just endured one of their most baffling and frustrating losses of the season, falling to the Los Angeles Rams in a performance that has left more questions than answers. From questionable quarterback decisions, to a lifeless red zone offense, to coaching inconsistencies, and even execution failures from the players we're supposed to trust the most, this game had it all, and not in a good way. Let's start with the quarterback situation, because that's where a lot of the post-game debate is centered. Cooper Rush got the start, a move that some fans already hated before kickoff. People were calling for Tyler Huntley to take the reins, believing his mobility and energy could have sparked something in this stagnant offense. But the coaching staff stuck with Rush, and it did not pay off. 11 completions on 19 attempts for just 72 yards and a pick. The offense moved the ball a bit early on, especially on the ground with Derrick Henry, but every time they gained traction, it felt like a penalty yanked the progress back. Let's talk about Derrick Henry. For the first time since week 1, he finally hit that 100-yard mark, finishing with 24 carries for 122 yards, a solid 5.1 yards per carry. That would be a headline if not for the complete absence of scoring. And I'm not talking about offensive struggles in general, I mean a total failure at the goal line. Baltimore reached the Rams' 1-yard line multiple times and couldn't punch it in. Not even with Derrick Henry. Not even with a tush-push. Not even with offensive ingenuity. It was failure after failure. The Ravens offense had the ball at the 1-yard line, tried 2 push plays with Mark Andrews. Nothing. They went back to Henry. Still nothing. Then came a fumble, one that was nearly returned for a Rams touchdown if not for the whistle. You could call it bad execution, you could blame poor blocking, and you'd be right on both. Center Tyler Linderbaum said it best, they just wanted it more than we did. If that's not a damning indictment of the team's mentality, I don't know what is. But the mistakes didn't stop there. Zay Flowers, usually a bright spot, had 2 fumbles, though he was only officially charged with 1. Both were recovered by the Rams. He made defenders miss, got the fans hyped, then dropped the ball. Literally. Leonte West had a fumble on a punt return that got saved by a penalty, then had a solid return after, but it still reflected a lack of consistency. Special teams had minimal impact aside from Tyler Luke putting up the only 3 points the Ravens managed all day. Punter Jordan Stout? He's doing his job well. But when the punter is one of your most consistent players, something is deeply wrong. The defense? They allowed just 17 points, and on the surface, that sounds acceptable. But you have to look at the context. The Rams dropped multiple potential touchdowns. Puka Nacua left the game hurt. There were breakdowns on plays that we've seen repeated all season, specifically the tight end leaking into the flat on play action. It's the same thing week after week, and it's still wide open every time. That's not bad luck. That's bad coaching. Matthew Stafford had all day in the pocket on key downs. There was even a 4th down where the Ravens rushed just 2 linemen, dropped 9 into coverage, and still gave up a long completion. If that's not a scheme problem, what is? Defensive coordinator Zach Orr might point to the scoreboard and say only 17 points, but anyone watching the game knows how close this could have been to a blowout. And let's be real, in critical moments, when the game was on the line, the defense didn't close. Now about that coaching staff. John Harbaugh said that the plan all along was to play both quarterbacks, Cooper Rush and Tyler Huntley. That's what he told the media. But Cooper Rush himself said he was surprised when Huntley came in. That doesn't sound like a plan. That sounds like damage control. And fans aren't buying it. Tyler Huntley did bring a bit more energy when he came in, especially with his legs. But by then, the offense was already in survival mode. It wasn't just the quarterback choice that was questionable. The offensive line remains a huge concern. The inability to gain a single yard at the goal line has become a recurring theme. Whether it's Andrew Voorhees, Josh Jones, or whoever else they put out there, the line has failed to establish any kind of dominance. At some point, a change has to be made, and if Harbaugh won't say the line has been a failure, maybe he just needs to make the move and call it a spark. Because the truth is, this upcoming bye week isn't just a chance to rest bodies, it's a chance to fix a broken identity. A chance to reflect, retool, and reestablish what this team is supposed to be about. But will they take that opportunity seriously? Because if they don't, if they come out of this break looking anything like they did against the Rams, this season is already over. Let's go back to something that can't be overlooked, the coaching staff's resistance to change. Harbaugh made it clear after the game, no changes are being made to the staff. That includes offensive line coaching, play calling responsibilities, and even defensive strategy. For a team sitting at 1-5, that level of stubbornness is either a show of confidence or denial. Fans are left wondering, are they genuinely trying to fix this, or are they simply hoping that the return of Lamar and Roquan will magically patch up the cracks? The offensive play calling, especially inside the red zone, has to be addressed. You're on the 1-yard line. You have Derrick Henry, the man known for running through brick walls. And yet, instead of trusting him 4 times in a row, you opt for gadget plays and quarterback sneaks that go nowhere. What happened to playing to your strengths? What happened to physicality? This team has completely lost its identity as a punch-you-in-the-mouth football squad. They look more like they're tiptoeing around trying not to make mistakes than imposing their will. And yes, while we're on the topic of mistakes, the turnovers, the penalties, the drops, the miscommunications, these aren't just unfortunate moments. They're symptoms of a team that isn't mentally sharp, isn't prepared, and, worst of all, may not be motivated. That's a culture issue. That starts at the top. And if that doesn't change immediately, not only is this season gone, but questions will start swirling about the future of this coaching regime. The backup quarterback drama was never supposed to be the headline. This team is built around Lamar Jackson. Everyone knows that. But even when your starter is out, there has to be a plan. A real one. Not just throwing different guys into the fire and hoping they catch spark. Cooper Rush didn't look like someone with a plan behind him. Tyler Huntley came in and was clearly improvising. That's not how you develop offensive rhythm. That's how you lose winnable games. Now, let's talk about accountability, because that's the one thing this team seems to be allergic to right now. Whether it's Harbaugh defending play calls that repeatedly fail, or blaming execution while refusing to name names or bench underperformers, there's no urgency. The fans see it, the players likely feel it, and it's one of the most dangerous traits a struggling team can have: complacency. You want to fire up this fan base again? Show us you're willing to fight for it. Make changes to the offensive line. Shake up the starting units. Get more aggressive in play calling. Bench players who are making repeated mental mistakes. Show us that mediocrity isn't acceptable in this locker room, because there are positives to build on. Derrick Henry still has gas in the tank, 122 yards in a game where everyone knew he was getting the ball. That's impressive. Tyler Loop is a reliable kicker. Jordan Stout continues to flip the field when called upon, and the defense, despite its flaws, still has key playmakers capable of flipping momentum. John Jenkins forcing a fumble, the 4th down stops, there's something to work with. And above all, Lamar Jackson and Roquan Smith are coming back. That can't be overstated. You're getting the heartbeat of your offense and the spine of your defense back. But if you don't have the right infrastructure, the right mentality, and the right adjustments in place when they return, then all you're doing is throwing your best players into a broken machine and hoping for miracles. And Ravens fans are tired of hoping. This bye week might be the last real chance to turn things around. Not just from a standings perspective, but in terms of leadership, identity, and the belief that this season isn't already a lost cause. Because if this team shows up against the Bears in 2 weeks looking anything like the one we just saw against the Rams, there won't be any more excuses. Not for the coaches, not for the players, not for anyone. So here's the question, and it's the only one that matters right now. Will the Ravens actually make the changes they need to make? Make sure to like the video if you haven't already, subscribe if you're new, and keep supporting the flock. And don't go anywhere. Check out the video on screen now for even more exclusive Ravens coverage.